Do you ever want to know what's going on in your beehive without even cracking the lid or lighting a smoker? Well, if so, hang around because I'm about to unbox and review the Bee Castle Beehive with viewing windows. Will the viewing windows be great or just a gimmick? Let's find out. What we received was the Bee Castle 8-frame wax-coated Langstroth Hive starter kit with viewing windows. This exact item is currently listed on Amazon for $139.99 with a rating of 4.7 stars. A link to the exact item being reviewed here will be provided in the description below. Also, it should be noted on Amazon, most Bee Castle products share a similar rating of approximately 4.7 out of 5 stars on Amazon. And so far, all the Bee Castle products that I've received, I've been pretty impressed and pleased with. Not to mention, Bee Castle is one of the most affordable and reasonably priced beehives on the market today. So it'll be interesting to see if this product holds up to that standard. All right, well, let's start unboxing. Wait a minute, I know a better way. So let's see what was in the box. You have one telescoping outer cover, one inner cover with vent, one plastic queen excluder, 8 pre-waxed medium foundations, yellow in color, 8 pre-waxed deep foundations, black in color, all the woodenware for a honey super and 1 deep hive body. Should be noted that on the long sides, there is the wooden cutout here that has an acrylic window, and that acrylic window is protected during shipping by plastic. All the woodenware is wax dipped. You have a wax dipped bottom board and top bars, bottom bars, and side bars, enough for 8 deep frames and 8 medium frames. It also comes with enough nails for the frames, although I use a staple gun. Then it comes with wooden ware for the windows, including the knob, the screws, and the latch that keeps the woodenware in place. And then it comes with enough screws for the woodenware to secure your medium and deep box together. And all the woodenware has pre-drilled, pre-sunk holes, which is nice. So what does Bee Castle claim as the major qualities of this starter kit? So the first feature they point out is transparent plexiglass windows on the long sides of both the hive body and the honey super. They state offers a great view while keeping rain and honey stealers out. They also claim this setup is easy to assemble. They state that the dovetail joints and pre-drilled holes make assembly much easier, which I'll agree with that. Another attribute that they point out is everything that they sell here is wax dipped in 100% beeswax. They claim that beeswax dipping makes them waterproof and more durable. Also that the bees prefer wax dip, and it saves time for the beekeeper because they don't have to paint the hive or hive parts. The last claim they make is that it is a great starter hive for the beginner beekeeper because it includes 1 deep and 1 medium with 16 frames of wax foundation. The full description of this product can be found at the link that I provided in the description of this video. So now let's see how those claims actually hold up. So I need to put this hive together. Okay, so now that we have it together, let's address some of those claims that were made. So a bit about the plexiglass windows. As you can see, they're here on the long side, but only on one side of the long side. They're not on the other side. So they're only on one side. They have these wooden pegs that hold them in. They go in and out pretty easy. According to Bee Castle, the acrylic plexiglass windows are an excellent way to observe the hive without disturbing the bees. One of the benefits that I see of this design is you can see the outer frame of the hive, or one of the outer frames of the hive. So you can definitely use it to see if they've maxed out that super and if you need to add another one. Now you should technically add another one before they've gotten to this window, but it's a good way of checking in on them. It does, as their claim states, allow you to check in on your bees without disturbing them. This would be great for educational purposes, to let children see without you actually having to crack open the hive, so that they can see what's going on without exposing them to any more risk than absolutely necessary. Also, friends, visitors, etc., without you having to worry about getting them geared up in case you open it up and they're not quite happy with you. And I will say this is definitely cheaper and way more functional than an observation hive. However, observation hive, you can actually take it out. It's mobile. You can take it out in the public, but this kind of is a hybrid. A few of the potential issues that I see with this setup, and I say potential because I've not field tested this. I've never had bees in this type of setup. So I will say they're potential negatives. So the first is the window actually takes the place of a handhold. Now the handhold that it replaces is on the long side, and you shouldn't be carrying supers or hive bodies from the long side just because it's ergonomically not a sound way to do it. It offsets your center of balance more than if you carry them from the handles from the short side. That way it's closer to your body. Trust me, I've got a bad back. Another potential issue is how long will the windows actually stay clear? They are smooth surface, so the bees are less likely to put propolis on smooth surfaces, but they are going to put propolis on these windows. So it'll be a good experiment to see how long the windows actually stay viewable. The other issue that I potentially see is this is a cutout, so there is a small gap all the way around to allow for the removal of the block. And in my view, during winter, especially if you're in a cold climate, the bees aren't going to be able to seal this. So it is a gap in the wood, which decreases the insulation value of this side of the hive. Now, if you're in a cold enough climate, you're probably taking other measures to protect your hive anyway, but a lot of people don't insulate, don't winterize at all, and this could be a potential issue. Another issue is to open and close, you have to twist this wooden block. And the wooden block is only held on by a little nut inside this hive. And so with enough twisting and pressure from the other side of the hive, there's a possibility that nut could come off and then this wood block become insecure. Then the only way you'd be able to get that nut is it would definitely probably drop down into the bottom board. You'd have to do a little bit of a search for the nut, and probably the bees probably wouldn't like that too much. All right, so the next claim that they made was ease of assembly. Bee Castle claims that their starter kit comes with pre-drilled, pre-sunk holes, which they did, which makes assembly easier. And I will agree, the pre-drilled, pre-sunk holes made screwing the screws into the sides of the hive boxes super easy. The windows also came with pre-drilled holes, which made their assembly also easy. The dovetail joints also definitely make putting this hive together super easy. I put both boxes together, checked them with a square afterward, and every one of them were absolutely square without me having to put them in a jig or contort them a little bit. I did have one side that was pretty tight because of the wax buildup in the grooves, but a few whacks with a rubber mallet solved that problem. So the next claim is about the beeswax coating of these hives. I will say that all the parts that are wooden that Bee Castle sent out seem to have a decent coat of beeswax on them, or I assume to be beeswax on them. They seem very evenly coated. I've received other hives from other companies that were wax coated, and although they were completely wax coated, they were very uneven, really thick in some areas, really skimpy in other areas. These joints also were better than the other companies that I've had. So they claim that they hot dip all their beehives in 100% beeswax. This hot dipping process submerges all surfaces of the wood, including the end grain and the joints, in hot wax, and this allows it to do a few things. One, it heats the wood up so that wax can penetrate into the wood itself, and also the heat displaces any moisture that might be remaining in the wood, which helps prevent twisting, warping, bending, cracking. The great thing about wax dipping versus painting is with wax dipping, you're getting all sides, every facet covered in preservative and waterproofing. Whereas suppose if you get an untreated hive body and super and paint them with your standard exterior latex, you're only covering the very exterior of the hive, and a lot of times you're not getting down in the grooves, which that's where a lot of rot and moisture can settle in. So the fact that these are wax dip helps prevent all that. Also, on the waxed foundation themselves, the black and the yellow foundations that go in the frames, they also seem to have a decent amount of wax. Still probably not enough for most bees' liking, but enough if you were in a pinch. I still like to cover all of my foundation with extra beeswax that I get from a local beekeeper. Since I don't have enough wax myself, I just scratch it onto the frame like a crayon. So the next claim is that this makes for a great beginner beekeeper beehive starter kit. I would mostly agree with this. I personally would prefer 2 deeps and maybe a honey super or 2, but this will definitely get you into your first year, but would be pushing it for next spring. By next spring, you need to have several more boxes because one good, strong, healthy hive coming out of winter can turn into 4 during spring. Now, this comes with everything a beekeeper needs woodenware wise, beehive wise. But the new beekeeper would need to buy their own safety equipment, smoker, hive tool, and all the other accessories that are outside of the hive. I have several of the items that I personally use linked in the description below if you want to check those out. Before we continue with the rest of the review, I've got a question for you. Do videos like this help you make informed decisions on products you may or may not want to purchase? If so, please help my channel by subscribing and giving this video a like. It's a super fast and easy way for you to help me continue to help you. Now, a few of the other things that we've got to go into for a thorough review of a product like this are joint type and wood quality. Joint type really makes a big difference in putting the box together and the box's durability. This box has dovetail joints, which not only help self-square, but to me it's more aesthetically pleasing, and it's considered a higher quality joint than a finger or a rabbet joint. Wood quality appears to be pretty nice. There's only some small tight knots, no large loose knots at all. Beecastle uses cedar wood, which is known for its longevity and resistance to decay. There's also a noticeable difference in weight between cedar wood and a pine beehive. Me personally, I prefer the look of cedar wood, especially when it's wax dipped. However, it should be noted that cedar wood is a softer wood and thus more prone to splitting than pine. So now I'd like to go through a few wish list items that I wish Beecastle would incorporate into their products. One thing I wish they would do is start offering medium starter kits. So instead of a deep and a medium, perhaps offer 3 mediums. The reason I wish they would do that is because I have a broken back. I have a disability, and mediums are much more manageable. It's also how I've chosen to standardize my equipment as much as possible by having as many medium setups as possible. That way everything is just swappable, plug and play. You don't have to worry about how many deeps, how many mediums. Everything's just a medium, everything's swappable. Another wish list item I wish Beecastle would offer is the choice of your foundation color. With this, the deep boxes came with black foundation and the honey supers came with yellow foundation, which is pretty standard. But I prefer black foundation for everything because it makes seeing eggs much easier. It makes seeing everything much easier for my old eyes. And since I use mediums for both honey supers and the hive bodies of my bee yard, this is an important feature to me. Now, you can get mediums with black foundation through Beecastle. However, it's not standard in their starter kit. I wish it was just a toggle button that you could say foundation black, foundation yellow. Also, I could have purchased 3 mediums individually, the bottom board, the top cover, and the inner cover. But again, that takes kind of the point out of a starter kit. So this is a new feature that I'm going to add to videos. So the next section is my accessibility tip. If you have a bad back or disability, lifting limitation, or you just want to make beekeeping as easy as possible, which I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to make it easier, I'm going to offer you a few beekeeping tips. So one of the things that I hear often in beekeeping groups on Facebook and forums on Reddit is that beehives are heavy. But always remember, you never have to lift anything heavier than one frame at a time. Now, how do I do that? Anytime I go to the bee yard, the first thing that I always bring is a table, a chair, and an empty hive body. I put an empty hive box on the table. I go to the hive. I pull up a frame of bees, inspect it, move it over to the empty box. And then I do the same thing for 8 or 10 frames, however many you have. And then all the frames have been moved from the hive to an empty box. You now have an empty box right here that you can easily lift off and inspect the next box. Now you've essentially lifted this box off, moving it one frame at a time without ever risking a back injury or if you're not able to lift it. Another good thing about having the table and an empty box, especially if you're 5 or 10 feet away from the hive, is as you take the frame out of the beehive, move away from the beehive toward your table, inspect the frame away from the hive, put the frame in the empty box, and then you don't have to worry about the guardian bees that are hanging out looking at you at the top of the frames just waiting for you to make the wrong move. Then when you're done, you simply reverse the process. You'll have an empty box, you put it on here, frame at a time, in the same order that you initially did them in, and then you just close it up and then you're done, and you've never lifted more than one single frame. You've saved your back. It does take a little bit more time, but to me it's worth it, and it's one of the few ways that I can still beekeep with as bad of a back as I have. So if you enjoyed this tip on making beekeeping easier, I actually published a book. It's on Amazon, but I also have a free version on my website. Link is in the description below, and it's full of tips like this on how to make beekeeping easier and more accessible for all beekeepers, especially those with disabilities. I hope you check it out, completely free. And if you've made it this far, thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you would, give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.